After over a decade of grinding away as a technical consultant, I'd finally clawed my way into a good spot in life. Work came to me, not the other way around. I could pick and choose my projects, leaving me plenty of free time for my hobbies, like rummaging through flea markets and antique shops. My specialty? Niche collectibles, especially old weapons. I wasn't in it for the money, though the untraceable cash helped. My real thrill came from owning artifacts with a story. Brass knuckles, saps, and old wooden clubs were my thing. Functional, artistic, and perfect for when someone needs a serious attitude adjustment. My collection wasn't huge, but it was curated. Let's just say I had a few items that could make someone reevaluate their life choices if they met them in a dark alley. My wife Lauren, on the other hand, found her sense of purpose in an office cubicle. She'd been working as an accountant for the past 6 or 7 years, and while she didn't exactly love the job, she liked the camaraderie with her coworkers. Most of our dinner conversations revolved around her work drama, which was fine by me. It was entertaining, like binge-watching a workplace sitcom. One name started coming up more often than usual: Mark Wolf, a newly hired senior manager at her firm. He was some mid-tier corporate hotshot who, according to Lauren, was the savior they'd been waiting for. Wolf was supposed to fix everything the last guy had broken. A knight in shining armor. I thought he sounded like a typical corporate brown-noser, but hey, I hadn't met the guy. One night, over dinner, I joked that new managers usually spend their first few months buttering everyone up before showing their true colors. It was a throwaway comment. Lauren didn't take it as one. Her reaction was immediate and volcanic. She slammed her fork down, glared at me, and said, "How dare you say that? You don't even know him." I wasn't expecting fireworks. "It's not personal, Lauren. Just an observation." She stormed off to the bedroom and slammed the door. A bit dramatic for someone who just claimed she wasn't taking it personally, don't you think? The Wolf issue faded into the background until a midnight call shattered the calm. Lauren's best friend, Julie, was on the line, crying hysterically. Her husband, Matt, had been assaulted in their own backyard. Lauren begged me to drive over. I told her to call the cops, but Julie insisted they couldn't. Matt had some irrational fear of hospitals and cops, and apparently, that made sense to Lauren. We rushed over, and Julie was still on the phone with Lauren the entire way. When we arrived, the scene was grim. Matt was sprawled out on the kitchen floor, wheezing in pain. His face was pale, and there was no mistaking the damage. Broken ribs, a swollen face, and oddly enough, a missing wedding ring. His wallet and watch were untouched. I leaned in and asked Matt what happened. Between shallow breaths he muttered, "Didn't see. Someone jumped me." I glanced at Julie, then back at Matt. "And they just took your wedding ring?" His gaze shifted, avoiding mine. "Yeah, took the ring." Something about his story didn't add up. But Lauren and Julie were already fussing over him, so I let it go for the moment. Matt's injuries lingered in my mind long after we left their house that night. Something about his story just didn't pass the smell test. A random mugging where the thief only grabs a wedding ring? Come on. If I've learned anything from my years of flea market dealings and late-night true crime documentaries, it's that the simplest explanation is usually the right one, and the simplest explanation here screamed affair. Back home, I ran through the details again. The precise targeting, the missing wedding ring, the painful choice of, well, where Matt was hit. This wasn't some amateur street thug. This had all the hallmarks of revenge, calculated, deliberate, and personal. Someone had sent Matt a very pointed message. The next morning over breakfast, I decided to float a theory by Lauren. "You ever think Matt might have been cheating on Julie?" Lauren nearly choked on her coffee. "What? No way. Matt's not like that." "Really? Because the whole 'someone stole my wedding ring but left my wallet and watch' thing doesn't exactly scream random crime. I'm just saying if he was fooling around, it might explain the, targeted nature of his injuries." Lauren bristled. "You have no idea what you're talking about. Julie would have said something if their marriage was in trouble." "Maybe," I shrugged. "Or maybe she doesn't know yet. Either way, Matt knows who did it, and he's keeping quiet for a reason." The conversation ended there, but Lauren's defensiveness stuck with me. Over the next few weeks, Matt's attack became a sort of weirdly taboo topic. Whenever I brought it up, Lauren would change the subject or deflect with something like, "Julie says Matt's feeling better," and leave it at that. It wasn't long before Wolf came back into our conversations. Subtly at first. Lauren would mention his name in passing, downplaying their interactions. "Mark stopped by my desk today," or "We had a team lunch, and Mark joined us." The shift was obvious. A few months ago, she couldn't stop raving about how brilliant Wolf was. Now, she seemed almost scared to bring him up. The more guarded she got, the more suspicious I became. Then one evening, she slipped. "Oh, I'll be home late Thursday," she said casually, while scrolling on her phone. "We've got a big client lunch." "Who's we?" I asked, without looking up from my book. "Just some people from the office. You know, work stuff." The way she said it set off alarm bells. Her tone was too rehearsed, too breezy. I decided to dig a little deeper. Thursday came, and so did my opportunity. Lauren left for her so-called client lunch, laptop in tow. Once she was out the door, I grabbed my own laptop and logged into our shared phone account. A few clicks later, I had her call history and text records on my screen. And there it was, Wolf's number, popping up with alarming frequency. Texts at all hours. Call durations that went way beyond casual office chatter. My blood boiled. I thought back to Matt and his injuries, and a grim realization started to take shape. Someone had already taught him a painful lesson for cheating. Was Lauren about to earn herself one too? The following Thursday, I put my plan into action. Lauren had told me she'd be working late again, but her laptop and phone activity suggested otherwise. It didn't take a genius to figure out her favorite rendezvous spot, the Broadmoor Hotel, a fancy place downtown known for overpriced drinks and rooms rented by the hour. She wasn't subtle about it, either. A series of text messages outlined the plan: lunch at the hotel restaurant, and then, well, not exactly work. I arrived early, dressed in what I thought was an appropriately low-profile disguise, a cheap fedora, a pair of thick-rimmed glasses I'd bought at a gas station, and a jacket a size too big. Okay, I looked like a guy trying not to be noticed, but it wasn't like Lauren would be looking for me. I camped out in the lobby with a newspaper and waited. Sure enough, around 12:45, they came in. They were holding hands. Bold move for a client lunch, but hey, what did I know? I followed them at a distance as they made their way into the restaurant. The two of them sat in a corner booth, leaning in close and whispering like a couple of teenagers. He even brushed a stray hair from her face at one point. Lauren blushed like it was their first date. My jaw tightened. I watched them through the glass partition, nursing my anger along with a watered-down club soda. They lingered over their food, laughing and flirting like they didn't have a care in the world. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, they stood up and headed toward the elevators. I followed at a safe distance, timing my steps to slip into the elevator right behind them. Lauren was too preoccupied to notice me. She was giggling like a schoolgirl while he whispered something in her ear. They didn't even glance back as I stepped into the elevator and stood against the back wall. He hit the button for the 5th floor, presumably where their rented room was waiting. I waited a beat, then pressed the button for the 10th floor. He glanced at me, eyebrows raised, but said nothing. Lauren didn't even look up. As the elevator doors closed, he wrapped an arm around Lauren's waist, pulling her close. I gripped the sap in my pocket, every muscle in my body screaming for action. But not yet. Timing was everything. The elevator dinged as it reached the 5th floor. Lauren was already halfway out the door, laughing about something he had said. He started to follow her, but I moved quickly, slamming the closed door button and pinning him inside. What the hell? He barely had time to react before I struck. The sap connected with the back of his head with a satisfying thud. He dropped like a sack of bricks, crumpling to the floor in a heap. For a moment, I just stood there, staring down at him, heart pounding in my chest. Then the adrenaline kicked in. I leaned his limp body against the wall. The elevator began its ascent to the 10th floor, giving me all the time I needed. The sap came down again, this time across his ribs. Then again. And again. I wasn't counting, but by the time the elevator dinged on the 8th floor, he was a bloodied, groaning mess. His face was swollen, his nose smashed, and his designer suit was a lost cause. I gave him one final kick for good measure before stepping out of the elevator. As the doors closed, I adjusted my jacket, smoothed my tie, and took a deep breath. It was done. As I stepped out of the elevator on the 8th floor, I took a moment to collect myself. My hands were shaking, not from regret but from the sheer adrenaline dump. I glanced at my reflection in a nearby mirror. Hat, glasses, jacket, everything still in place. No blood on me. Good. I wasn't planning to get caught, but it was better to be prepared for the worst. I pressed the down button for the other elevator, watching the panel to see where the first one, his elevator, was headed. It stopped briefly at the 10th floor, then began climbing again, likely summoned by someone else. Perfect. By the time anyone found I'd be long gone. The second elevator arrived with a soft ding, and I stepped in, keeping my head low as the doors closed. I hit the button for the lobby and rode down in silence, resisting the urge to check my phone or look around too much. This was the final stretch, and I needed to keep my cool. When the elevator doors opened to the lobby, I walked out like I belonged there. No rushing, no darting glances. Just another guy in a suit heading back to work. I passed the front desk and slipped out the side door, blending into the crowd on the busy downtown street. Around the corner, I ducked into a McDonald's bathroom to ditch my disguise. The hat and glasses went into the trash, along with the jacket. Underneath, I was wearing a plain t-shirt and jeans, my usual weekend attire. A quick splash of water on my face, and I was just another guy out for a burger. No one gave me a second look as I strolled out and headed 3 blocks to my car. On the drive home, my mind raced. Part of me wanted to keep driving, pack a bag, disappear for a while. But why? I hadn't done anything wrong, not really. He deserved every bit of what he got. If anyone was in the wrong here, it was him and Lauren. I was just the guy who balanced the scales. By the time I pulled into my driveway, I'd made my decision. I wasn't going anywhere. If Lauren wanted to play house with or anyone else for that matter, she could do it on her own dime. I wasn't about to disrupt my life because she couldn't keep her vows. Inside, I got to work. I packed 2 suitcases with Lauren's essentials and added a few trash bags for the bulky stuff. Everything went into the hallway, ready for her to grab on her way out. Then I opened a bottle of wine we'd been saving for a special occasion and poured myself a generous glass. By the time Lauren got home, I was feeling pretty good about how things were shaping up. Lauren walked through the door around 7 p.m., moving stiffly and wincing with every step. Rough day? I asked, feigning concern as I leaned back in my chair. My back's killing me, she groaned, collapsing onto the couch. It's been a nightmare. I didn't press her for details. She'd get to the truth soon enough. Instead, I gestured toward the table. There's some pizza left if you're hungry. She nodded, clearly too tired to argue, and shuffled to the kitchen. I waited until she was halfway through a slice before dropping the first bomb. So, I said casually, how's Mark Wolf these days? Lauren froze mid-bite, her eyes darting to mine. What do you mean? You know, I said, shrugging. Your boss. Do you still have lunch with him? Or is that not a thing anymore? Her face turned beet red, and she sputtered, I don't know what you're talking about. We're just co-workers. Relax, I said, smiling faintly. I'm not accusing you of anything. I'm just saying it's interesting how often his name used to come up. Not so much anymore. Makes a guy wonder. Her phone rang, saving her from responding. She glanced at the screen and went pale. Can you grab that for me? My back. I picked up the phone and glanced at the caller ID. Mark Wolf. Of course. I handed it to her without a word. She answered, trying to sound casual, but her voice betrayed her. Hello? Oh, hi, Mark. I could hear Wolf's voice faintly on the other end. He sounded agitated. Karen, who the hell is your husband? He called my wife and told her we were screwing. What the hell is going on? Lauren's face went white as a sheet. I don't know, Mark. That's ridiculous. Let me call you back. She hung up and turned to me, panic in her eyes. Chris, did you call Mark's wife? I leaned back, arms crossed. Sure did. Figured it was time to clear the air. Her jaw dropped. You've ruined his marriage. How could you? Why would you? Why? I repeated, standing up and towering over her. Because you ruined ours. Lauren's face contorted in disbelief. Chris, you don't understand. I swear, nothing happened with Mark. I've never even. Stop, I said, holding up a hand. We both know Mark isn't the issue here. You flirted too much, but you haven't gone far enough. It's the other guy. Jonathan Lamb, right? The consultant from Pittsburgh? The one you've been meeting at the Broadmoor. Her mouth opened, then closed, like a fish gasping for air. She finally whispered, How did you? I'm not an idiot, Lauren, I snapped. You've been sloppy. The texts, the phone calls, the lunches that magically turned into hotel meetups. Did you really think I wouldn't figure it out? Tears welled up in her eyes, but I wasn't about to let her turn this into a pity party. Save it, I said coldly. I don't care how sorry you are. This isn't about forgiveness. This is about consequences. She stared at me, speechless, as I gestured toward the hallway. Your stuff's packed. 2 suitcases and some trash bags. You can take it to your mom's or wherever you plan on staying. But you're out. You're throwing me out, she choked. After all these years. Damn right I am, I said, my voice steady. You've been cheating on me for months, Lauren. What did you think was going to happen? I'd just smile and pretend it didn't matter. Her tears turned into angry sobs. I made a mistake. People work through this kind of thing all the time. We can. No, I cut her off. You made this decision when you started sneaking around. I'm just following through. The rest of the evening was awkwardly quiet. Lauren tried pleading a few more times, but I didn't budge. Eventually, she grabbed her bags and left without another word. I sat on the couch with the rest of the wine, feeling more relieved than sad. In the weeks that followed, things settled into a strange new normal. Lauren moved in with her mom and started the divorce process. I canceled our joint accounts, opened new ones in my name, and made sure every financial tie between us was severed. I wasn't about to give her any leverage. The rumor quickly spread in her office, thanks to her brilliant decision to flirt with Wolf. I'm guessing Wolf's wife made a scene, because Lauren quit her job not long after. Last I heard, she was working for Lamb's consulting firm. Fitting, I suppose. The Lamb and the cheater together at last. About a year later, I ran into Lauren at a coffee shop. She looked fine. A little worn out, but I wasn't going to lose any sleep over it. We exchanged polite hellos, and then she hit me with something I didn't see coming. I just wanted to say thank you, she blurted out. For what? I asked, raising an eyebrow. For not going after Jonathan, she said, her voice a mix of gratitude and nervousness. I mean, after what you said about what you'd do if I cheated. I thought. I smirked, leaning forward. Lauren, do you remember what Jonathan looked like the last time you saw him that day? All bruised and broken. Her face froze as the realization hit. Her jaw dropped, and her eyes went wide. You didn't. The look on your face is priceless, I said, standing up and grabbing my coffee. Take care, Lauren. I walked out of the shop without looking back, smiling to myself. Justice might not always be pretty, but damn, it's satisfying.